Amid the glitz of Wall Street, Claire Morgan advocated a view many deemed naive. Laughter surrounded her, warnings sounded, but her determination held an invisible strength. Little did she know that the bold choice of that day would not only challenge colleagues, but also earn the unexpected trust of clients. The lights reflecting on the glass panels of Wall Street always seemed like a moving sea to Claire Morgan, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, but never indifferent. At 29, as an M and an advisor at Caldwell and Ames, she walked with measured steps and carried a brown leather briefcase inherited from her father, an honest accountant who was fired after the company where he had worked for 15 years was sold. Since then, Claire carried, besides the briefcase, a silent vow never to support a deal that crushed people in the name of profits, and the constant reminder that the corporate world does not apologize for discarding lives. The office was bustling that September morning. Analysts dashed between cubicles carrying printed reports, secretaries balanced trays of coffee for morning meetings, and the buzz of phones created that familiar symphony of the financial market. Claire adjusted the discreet pearl necklace, a gift from her mother when she entered college, while she reviewed her notes for the 5th time. Raised in New Haven with her mother, Diane, an art teacher with hands always stained with paint and a smile that lit up any room, Claire played the piano at the local church on Sundays. She learned early that faith is not an escape, it is a breath. In college, she was brilliant. In New York, she disciplined herself, black coffee, impeccable reports, meetings at 7, calls at 10. Her personal life was summed up by notes on the fridge reminding her of due dates and her mother's medical appointments, and a letter from her father still sealed in a shoebox that Claire couldn't open since the funeral. "When you're ready," Diane always said. Claire never felt ready. Her apartment in Brooklyn was modest, with one bedroom, a living room combined with a kitchen, and a small balcony where she grew basil and rosemary in ceramic pots. The walls displayed only 3 pictures, an abstract painted by her mother, an old photograph of her father smiling on a fishing trip, and a framed diploma that had cost nights of study and a student loan she would pay off for another 7 years. Claire smiled at the thought that, despite advising billion-dollar transactions, her own life fit into small, cozy spaces. On that Tuesday, the agenda was heavy. The final round of negotiations between Westmore Partners, a family fund known for preserving legacy, and Titan Ridge Capital Partners, led by CEO Patrick Hale, 58, with impeccable gray suits and a reputation that preceded every handshake. Caldwell and Ames was advising Westmore. Claire had spent 3 weeks immersed in contracts, appendices, and covenants, knowing that her managing director, Jard Whittaker, had staked his reputation on her competence. "If this doesn't close by Friday, we lose momentum, and if we lose momentum on a deal of this magnitude," Jard didn't need to finish the sentence on Monday morning. Claire understood. Careers were made and broken in deals like this. "Understood, Jard. We reviewed the latest projections last night. The numbers make sense, but I found some inconsistencies in the social clauses," Claire said, leafing through her notebook. Jard ran a hand through the gray hair at his temples. At 52, he had seen many young talents come and go. Claire was different, meticulous without being slow, human without being naive. "Claire, you're brilliant, but in this business, you need to choose your battles. Patrick Hale has been closing deals like this since you were learning multiplication tables. And the people who built Westmore deserve more than just being lines in a cost-cutting spreadsheet," Claire replied, keeping her voice firm but respectful. The elevator rose silently to the 38th floor, where the meeting room was a showcase over the city. The oval table reflected laptops, tonic waters, and metal pens. Eleanor Westmore, 67 years old, the matriarch who had transformed a family business into an empire, had an instinctive distrust of gilded promises. Her discreet red blazer contrasted with the genuine pearls around her neck, not as an ostentation, but as a reminder of her grandmother who started the business selling handmade jewelry in the post-war era. Next to her, Tyler, the 24-year-old grandson, carried the unease of someone who needs to prove they are not just the heir. Immaculate blue shirt, upright posture, but fingers drumming nervously on the table. Claire took a side seat, close enough to intervene, far enough to observe. Patrick entered with his 2 VPS and the head of legal, greeting each person with surgical precision. "Let's close this today. The market is nervous. Windows are closing." He opened the slides, graphs rising, irrefutable synergies, multiples that made sense. He was convincing. Patrick Hale hadn't gotten where he was by being an amateur. "Our proposal represents the best interest of all stakeholders," Patrick said, with the confidence of someone who had closed hundreds of similar deals. Westmore retains its legacy as a brand, and Titan Ridge brings operational efficiency that will ensure the business's longevity. Flipping through the printed version, Claire reached Appendix D, Benefits Plan. Section 7.3, she read it 3 times, her stomach tightened. It wasn't ambiguous, it was deliberate. Claire, Eleanor called her in the middle of an explanation about adjusted EBITDA. Any technical remarks? Patrick interrupted before she could respond. Eleanor, these clauses have been around for decades. They're standard market. Let the junior team review it later when they have more experience with post-closing restructures. The smile was professional, but the message was clear. Children don't speak when adults make decisions. Polite laughter echoed. Claire took a deep breath and looked up, just confirming the interpretation. Section 7.3 allows, after 18 months, compulsory migration of the pension plan to defined contribution with no minimum floor. This specifically affects employees with more than 15 years at the company. Am I reading this right? The silence that followed was heavy. The head of legal at Titan Ridge adjusted his glasses. Patrick maintained the tone, but something changed. Actuarial optimization, Claire. When you've seen more restructurings, you'll understand that sometimes there's no elegant alternative. It's what allows the deal to work. Eleanor frowned. Elegant alternative for what exactly? To keep the company competitive. Legacy benefits are an anchor that drags down performance. Do you want to preserve jobs or preserve nostalgia? Tyler leaned forward. What if we want to preserve people? Patrick laughed, but it wasn't a cruel laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had learned hard lessons. Tyler, I've learned that he who hesitates is lost, and those who lose disappear. Your grandparents would understand that. Eleanor slowly closed the folder. My grandparents built this company with the promise that those who gave their best would have a guaranteed future. If this business requires breaking promises of decades, we have a conceptual problem. Claire noticed the tension in Jard's shoulders. This was not theater, it was a pivotal moment in the business. She could feel the weight of the decision hovering in the room like fog. You can reconsider the price, Patrick offered pragmatically. An 8% discount to compensate for the covenant. Tyler reacted immediately. A discount for what was just optimization? Eleanor stood up. Maybe there's another path. Claire, can your team structure an alternative that maintains both performance and promises? Claire felt all eyes on her. Hers went directly to Patrick. We can, but we need until Thursday and the freedom to consider other buyers willing to maintain social covenants for 36 months with independent auditing. Patrick laughed, this time with genuine disdain. They will come back to me when they find out the market has no patience for romanticism. Eleanor replied calmly, perhaps the market can also include conscience. The hallway was silent when they left. Claire could only hear the sound of expensive shoes on the marble floor. In the elevator, Jard whispered. You know what you just did, right? Defended the client. Challenged Patrick Hale. He doesn't forget challenges, nor do I forget broken promises. Over the next 2 hours, they regrouped in a smaller room. Jard was articulating the legal structure and cash flow. Claire called Ben Collins, managing director at Beacon & Rowe, a boutique with a solid reputation in socially responsible deals. Ben, I need a buyer who will agree to an unusual covenant, maintain the pension plan for 36 months, conduct an annual independent audit without touching the benefits. It could be a tiered earnout based on operational performance. Ben hesitated. 36 months is aggressive, Claire, but if there's an earnout conditioned on specific KPIs without altering the benefit structure, I might be able to convince my board. Does the client want a real legacy or just marketing? A real legacy. Eleanor Westmore doesn't bluff. Then we have a conversation. The day advanced with calls, numbers, and alternative scenarios. When Claire finally reached her apartment, the city lights blinked like earthly stars. She opened the fridge and found only a yogurt expired 2 days ago, an apple, and a half bottle of white wine. She decided to order Thai food and call her mother. Claire Bear, you look exhausted, said Diane as she answered the video call. The childhood nickname always made her smile. Long day, Mom. One of those that defines careers. In a good or bad way, I don't know yet. Diane smiled, expression lines marking her gentle face framed by hair now almost completely white. You know what your father always said. The story isn't about who closed more deals, but who slept peacefully after them. Claire completed. I know, Mom. Maybe it's time to read that letter. Claire felt her heart tighten. Maybe it is. After the solitary dinner, Claire finally retrieved the shoebox stored at the top of the closet. She sat in the small armchair by the window, took a deep breath, and after years of delay, broke the seal. Her hands trembled when she recognized the familiar handwriting. "My daughter, if you are reading this, it means I reached the end before being able to say in person what I needed. I found out today that our company will be sold and that all employees with more than 10 years will be optimized after the transition. Including me, the buyer already knew we would accept anything to keep some jobs. We accepted because we didn't have the courage to bet on alternatives. If you are ever called to sign something that costs someone's future, remember. Numbers are people in another language, and also remember that there is always another way to do the math. Do not negotiate what allows us to sleep in peace. Be the alternative I didn't know how to be." With love and trust, Dad. Claire cried until there were no more tears. The words brought her father back as if he were sitting next to her with his scent of aftershave and pens in his shirt pocket. She remembered him coming home late after being informed of his dismissal, his eyes red but still trying to smile during dinner. 2 weeks later, a heart attack took him during his sleep. Then she took a deep breath and called Ben. "I need this proposal to be flawless. It's not just a deal, it's a promise." "Claire, it's 2 in the morning, Ben replied, drowsy. "And by 8 we'll have the first version of the alternative proposal. This isn't just business, Ben, it's redemption." In the following days, Claire slept less than 4 hours a night. She reviewed spreadsheets, consulted benefits specialists, spoke with actuaries, and put together a model that kept the benefits intact without compromising profitability. The proposal had tighter margins but demonstrated long-term viability. The introduction to Alina and Tyler took place in a small conference room without the pomp of the previous meeting. Claire brought her own charts, cash flow simulations, and most importantly, stories of employees whose safety was at stake. "I'm impressed," Alina said, adjusting her reading glasses. "This seems possible," Claire completed. "It's not easy, but it's feasible, and more importantly, it aligns with Westmore's values." 2 days later, they signed an indicative term sheet. Beacon and Rowe offered a price just 3% lower, a robust earn-out conditional on operational targets, and most importantly, a solid commitment to maintain benefits for 36 months. Titan Ridge made a last counterattack, offering the full price if Westmore accepted only 24 months of protection. Alina declined. "It's not a matter of months, Patrick. It's a matter of word." Patrick left the room without looking at Claire. In the hallway, however, he paused briefly beside her. "Impressive work, Morgan. Misguided, but impressive. We will see how this ends in 3 years. We will see how people live over the next 3 years, Mr. Hale." 3 weeks later, the SPA was signed. Adjusted price, social covenants secured for 36 months, R&W insurance ensuring legal protection, and a specific clause stating that any violation of the benefits would result in a penalty equivalent to 15% of the enterprise value. On the day of the signing, an employee of the target company, a man with gray hair and calloused hands, approached Claire in the lobby. "Miss, they said you fought for our future. I don't understand all these clauses, but I know I will sit at the dinner table tonight without fear of looking into my children's eyes. That is worth more than any number." Claire shook his hand. "That is also a return on investment." As she made her way home that night, Claire stopped at Trinity Church. She sat on the same bench where she played piano on Sundays during her teenage years. The place was empty, with only a few lit candles casting dancing shadows on the centuries-old walls. She closed her eyes and felt a peace she hadn't experienced in years. A few weeks later, Alina called Claire for a private meeting at the Westmore headquarters, a historic building overlooking the park. Alina's office was cozy, with dark wood furniture, a Persian rug, and photographs of 3 generations of the family on the walls. A donation was made to the Trinity Church's Medical Emergency Fund. Anonymous but significant. "They just said you would know why." Claire smiled. "Sometimes the accounts balance in unexpected ways. Jard told me you have potential to be managing director in 2 years. Do you want me to recommend you to lead our permanent ESG investing committee?" "I accept, but on one condition. Every deal that goes through me will have mandatory social auditing." "Agreed. By the way, Titan Ridge tried to spread the rumor that we romanticize business. The market didn't buy it. 3 of their clients migrated to funds that guarantee social covenants. Sometimes doing the right thing is also the smart thing." On her last day of work before vacation, Claire decided to visit her mother in New Haven. She brought along her father's leather folder, now filled with her own documents, future projects, and a photo of her with Alina and Tyler at the contract signing. Diane prepared tea in the same blue kettle she had been using for decades. The aroma of cinnamon filled the small kitchen as the afternoon sun cast patterns on the wooden floor through the lace curtains. "Your father would be so proud of you," Diane said, pouring the tea into porcelain cups with tiny cracks around the edges, family heirlooms Claire had known since childhood. "I just did what he would have done," Claire replied, feeling the warmth of the drink between her hands. "No, dear, you did what he dreamed he could do. There's a huge difference in that." Before leaving, Claire stopped by the local Trinity Church. She sat on the same pew where she had prayed months earlier, where she had played the piano for years, where she learned that faith was not just belief but action. She asked for nothing this time, she simply gave thanks. And promised that in 12 months, when the first independent audit would reveal whether the promises had turned into real policies, she would be there to ensure that every number continued to represent a person. Back in New York, from the height of the 38th floor, watching the glass panels reflecting the city in motion, Claire understood something they didn't teach in business school. The best deals aren't the ones that generate the most money. They are the ones that generate more future, and future, she discovered, always includes hope. The father's leather folder was heavier now, but it was a weight she carried with pride.